I'm going to focus on this concept of digital place shaping, contemporary narrative. And I'm going to take it from the attitude of, a gallery without walls, and how do we collaborate with our digital world? And sometimes we just collaborate with our digital world. Sometimes we elaborate and help it to fill out our landscape and our sense of the city. Sometimes we do interventions, and this is a sgraffito exercise that the V&A did using graphic artists for their opening of the Exhibition Road entrance. Sometimes we include it in infrastructure itself. This was one of the first installations with the King's Cross Arts Program. Sometimes it's like Lyon and it takes over a whole city, and we think about interventions throughout that help us with wayfinding throughout the city and reinvestigating. Sometimes there are installations that are created with light, or we use these digital installations really to bring our buildings that we think we know to life. We're becoming very familiar with projection mapping, and the two boroughs of culture have used this technique. This is Walthamstow's year. And then Brent took it a stage further and actually thought about it being an integral aspect to its set design for its opening event. And then we also have, on a large scale, the illuminated river, in which we think about how the artist Leo Villarreal turns our Thames into one of the greatest impressionistic works. This is a piece by Matt Collishaw that is up now, and he's taken the church at Kingston upon Thames and using the same techniques of echolocation that bats use, has actually been able to map the entire church and take us on a journey. So I did a talk, I think about 5 years ago, really, about Zen in the city, this idea of digital interventions into urban architecture. Creatives always love to get access to what they might not be able to, or find ways to integrate. And we found even during lockdown that artists were some of the first and most generous, jumping on TikTok and other platforms to immediately find a way, as Ben says, to engage with their audience. And I want to take a little time just to talk to you about a very large experiment that I did. I was the director of Times Square Arts. I founded a public arts program within Times Square. And obviously, this is a very long history. From 1904, it has been illuminated this way. It's not a new concept. And then it translated over into the XXX industry. And then we took it back and started to understand how artists could really make this alive. In 2012, I founded the Midnight Moment, which is the longest running and largest digital art exhibition in the world. Every night for 3 minutes before midnight, an artist's film takes over the screens. And this has been going since May of 2012. And just this last month, or this current month in May, it's actually coordinated with Piccadilly Lights. So you'll be able to see David Hockney's work timed up that way. We created content for the screen so that you felt like you were in the middle of a performance. We thought about ways in which it could completely transform your idea of an area and make you look at the existing architecture that was there. But then that wasn't quite enough. So at that time, we used the silent disco headphones. And this artist, Ryoji Ikeda, who usually does a live mix, created a live mix on that night. And we found a way to overwhelm the audience sonically and visually through digital technology without disturbing everybody else. We then took it another step further, and with one piece, we actually created what we called a silent orchestra. And the idea is that people could actually watch these musicians live, hear it through their headphones, and connect to the screen beyond. We then filmed that in 360 degrees and turned it into a virtual reality experience. And then we're able to take this on show to Moscow. This was the first time that this type of technology was displayed in Moscow for an art exhibition. We worked with something using mapping the entire city and thinking about it as if you could discover the narratives of place through songs. And this was called Compass Song. We worked with someone called Soundwalk Collective, and they went to the Amazon jungle and did an audio and visual mapping of it, and then geotagged it to the different locations in Times Square. So you could take a walk through the Amazon forest within the concrete jungle of Times Square. And what it also did was use AR technology so that all of the imagery that you saw would turn into a nighttime. When this went up on the screens in Midnight Moment, you can see that people would see it on the left in one way, but if they use the technology on their phone to the nighttime setting, they could experience another jungle simultaneously. Rimini Protocol is a Berlin-based organization that's been taking people on audio tours of their cities for years, and they do a different intervention every time. They started with the Walkman, and now it's moved to an app. But it's a way in which people revisit what they think they know. Raphael Lozana Hammer created a piece in which people could communicate using these devices through light and make connections. And he's just recently done this across the US and Mexico border. He also created a piece that was in Federation Square in Melbourne first, and then we saw it for Lumiere Festival in London, in which created the sense of an eclipse, in a way that people can feel like they're experiencing a natural phenomena. Right now, with Circa, a new effort with Piccadilly Lights, there's a way in which what is usually behind the walls along Shaftesbury Avenue gets presented out front, and you can be part of that concert. It also is a way to literally bring a gallery without walls to life. And it's an imaginative way to bring archives to life, to make them live, to literally connect to the artist that is there and present, and then connect back to the work itself. He's then expanded this and ensures that the digital content is available online. There are different interviews, and there are ways that he's expanding what happens on the screen to make those greater connections, like Ben said, as far as further engagement and anticipation. We've seen everybody get excited now about the technology that makes it feel as if there's 3D. And just recently, it turns out Netflix accessed some of that 3D technology on the Piccadilly Lights screen. So we know that it's possible in our own city. Also, the Art of London, based in the center of London, run by the Heart of London Business Alliance District, has created an augmented reality tour that is linking up incredible assets from the different museums in the area and making it accessible to people, literally bringing the gallery out onto the walls. On Monday, there's a talk by the Lord Mayor of London, hosted by him, called Culture, Technology and Innovation. And we see how different companies here, both commercial and nonprofit, are using these different platforms. We know this is a hot topic. If we want to push it even forward, there are cyborg artists. There's a Cyborg Arts Foundation, and they directly deal with this idea of hybridity. There's one artist named Moon Revis who for about 7 years had a technology in which her body would actually be triggered every time there was an earthquake in a world, creating a direct relationship with Mother Nature. And another artist actually is synesthetic and has a device in which he can constantly highlight this experience and transmit if he needs to. Other artists are looking at how permanent art can be responsive. This is a piece by Karsten Nicolai in Tokyo. And the idea is that the artwork actually fluctuates. So as the weather is worse, the artwork is brighter. And it's a way in which it can complement and help us through the challenges of the day and actually calm us. There are ways in which the screen itself is being built into the architecture, and we're thinking about how we feel like we're walking through a movie the entire time. There are other organizations that are really exploring this, and particularly during the pandemic. You know, following on from synesthesia, Centre Pompidou worked with Google Arts to really try and bring Kandinsky's experience to life. Somerset House has an incredible interactive platform and a game that's been created. Correspondence is something the Photographers Gallery has brought up to again connect the immersive digital and sonic platforms. And if you don't know him, Rafiq Anadol is one of the leading artists that really uses AI-driven technology to pull down current data that keeps a permanent artwork dynamic and alive and responsive on a regular basis. At Futurecity, we've even brought this in with architects into new buildings. How do we integrate the digital opportunities into the environment? And how can we use it as a way to fluctuate between the natural daylight and nature and then pivot into a digital world in the evening? Rich mix. There are different cultural institutions that are specifically set up now to explore these ideas, so we understand how that fits into our cultural infrastructure. There are ways in which it is going into creative districts or how we plan our cities and consider making the amenities there. And then again, with Futurecity, we've even brought this into an entire town center concept. And Basildon has embraced digital as being one of the most important aspects of not only their commercial business, but how they engage with people. So I put up this definition of creative placemaking that's been accepted internationally. And the main points here are about how we leverage the power of arts, culture, and creativity, how this can drive even a broader agenda for change, growth, and transformation. And it helps to build character and quality of place. So if we think about what digital place shaping means, maybe we can just add these. We leverage the power of arts and creativity to access the digital technology, to engage people in this change, growth, and transformation that will build the character of quality in place. And most importantly, we work with artists because we really want to dream, and that's what their specialty is. Thank you.